You know that feeling, right? Just drowning in information, notes everywhere, documents lost in folders. Trying to find that one thing feels impossible sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there. Just wishing there was a better way to connect all the docs.
Well, today we're actually diving into something that might just be that solution.
Exactly. We're going to take a really close look at Huly's card system and, importantly, how it stacks up against their more traditional documents.
Yeah, how are they different? How are they the same?
We've got some great source material to guide us: cards versus documents, introduction to cards, some use cases, and one called What Are Relations? These should give us a pretty solid picture.
Okay, so our mission today basically is to figure out, are Huly cards genuinely more powerful, more flexible for organizing knowledge than plain old documents?
And maybe even more exciting, could these cards be like the building blocks for creating your own custom apps right inside Huly?
Intriguing stuff. Okay, let's get started. Where do we begin?
Well, maybe we should kick things off with the similarities. Because, cards and documents aren't completely different beasts. They do share some common ground.
Right, okay. Like the editor, for instance. When you're actually writing stuff, putting content in, it's the same text editor for both a card and a document.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that experience, writing, formatting, adding images, whatever, it feels consistent. No learning curve there.
Okay, that makes sense.
And both also have that activity section.
Yeah.
Which is super useful, actually.
Yeah, the change history and comments.
Tracks who did what, when, and lets you have discussions right there on the item itself. Great for collaboration.
Definitely. And what about permissions and privacy? Who gets to see what?
That's handled at the space level, and it's consistent too.
Yeah.
Your roles, permissions, privacy settings, they apply the same way, whether it's a card or a document within that space.
So the basic foundations are pretty similar, but now the differences. This is where it gets interesting, I think, starting with attributes.
Yes, attributes. This is a fundamental split. With documents, you get what you're given. System attributes.
Like title, content, who made it, when, that sort of thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And crucially, that list is fixed. You can't add your own ways to categorize or describe that document within the system structure.
It's like, yeah, you have these built-in labels, but you can't just stick on a new label that says Project X or Urgent Review.
Exactly. Cards, though, totally different ballgame. They have those default attributes too, sure. But the real power, you can define basically unlimited custom attributes.
Ah, okay, so I could add things like client name, status, due date, document type, whatever I need.
Whatever makes sense for that specific kind of information you're storing. It gives you so much more control, so much more specificity in how you describe and ultimately organize things.
Right, and that ability to customize attributes must have knock-on effects, like how you find stuff later, sorting and filtering.
Huge implications there. This is a major advantage for cards. Think about documents because those attributes are fixed and limited.
You're mostly stuck with folder structures or just searching the text inside, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It can be hard to zero in on exactly what you need sometimes.
Okay.
But with cards, because you define those custom attributes, status, client, priority, whatever, you can instantly sort or filter your cards based on any of them.
So I could say, show me all the meeting notes cards for client ABC that have a status of action required.
Exactly that. Imagine having hundreds of research notes. You could instantly filter for just those related to topic Y or sort them by date conducted. It makes finding information so much more efficient.
It transforms it from just a pile of stuff into something you can actively query. That's a big deal.
It really is. Another difference that seems small but matters is attachments.
Ah, okay. How do they handle files differently?
With documents, there isn't really a dedicated spot for attachments. If you want to link a file, you basically have to add it as a comment in the activity section.
Oh, I can see how that gets messy fast, especially with lots of comments and replies. Files just get buried.
They can, yeah. Cards, on the other hand, have a specific designated area just for attachments.
So related spreadsheets, images, PDFs, they're all neatly collected in one place on the card itself.
Exactly. Much cleaner, much easier to find everything related to that specific piece of information. Keeps things organized.
Makes sense. Okay, so custom attributes, better sorting, filtering, dedicated attachments. What about the overall structure? How are they organized?
Documents generally follow that familiar nested structure. Think folders within folders. You put documents inside other documents.
Like an outline, almost. Good for things that naturally break down hierarchically, maybe? Like a big project plan?
Yeah, it works well for that kind of top-down information hierarchy. Cards use a different approach. They're organized by type.
Type. Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Think of a type like a template or a blueprint for a specific kind of information. The Introduction to Cards source mentions this. So you might have a meeting notes type, a client record type, a feature spec type.
And each type defines what attributes a card of that type should have. Like, all meeting notes must have a date and attendees attribute.
Precisely. So instead of nesting things inside each other, you organize by grouping similar items that share the same underlying structure, the same type.
Interesting. So less about where it is in a hierarchy, more about what it is structurally.
Exactly. And this concept of types becomes really powerful when we talk about how things connect, the relationships between information.
Ah, relations. Okay.
Yeah.
This sounds like a step beyond just basic linking.
It is. Documents let you link, of course. You can use A10 mentions to point to another document, and you get backlinks. It's basically a one-to-one hyperlink.
Simple enough, like linking web pages.
Right. Cards offer more sophisticated ways to connect things. You can set up parent-child relationships, for one.
Okay, like this task is part of that bigger project card.
Exactly. They also have references, which are flexible links to almost anything else in your Huly workspace, other cards, documents, people, whatever.
So more versatile linking.
But the really powerful part is relations with a capital R that you define at the type level. What are relations? Source digs into this.
Okay, hold on. Relations defined at the type level, how does that work?
It means you predefine allowed connections between different types of cards. The source uses a game design example. Let's say you have a character type and an item type.
Okay.
You could define a specific relation called, say, equips that connects characters to items. Then, on an individual character card, you can specifically link the item cards they equip using that predefined equips relation.
Ah, I see. So it's not just a generic link, it's a link with meaning defined by the relationship type equips, possesses, belongs to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another example they give is a game asset type being related to a game component type via a used-in relation. You're building a structured web of knowledge where the connections themselves carry information.
That's much richer than just an at mention. It lets you model real-world relationships between different kinds of information.
Precisely. It helps you see patterns and navigate connections in a way that isolated documents just can't support as easily.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the core bits of the card system then. We've got types setting the structure.
Where the blueprints.
Then tags, which sound like extra labels you can slap on cards across different types.
Yeah, flexible categorization.
The cards themselves, which are the actual pieces of information following a type structure.
The instances, yeah.
And these powerful relations that define how different types can connect to each other in meaningful ways.
You got it. Those are the key building blocks.
And when you put all that together, you start seeing the advantages for, like, serious knowledge management.
Absolutely. The sources highlight a few key benefits. First, structured organization. Because every card follows its type's rules.
You get consistency.
Yeah.
Everything of the same type looks similar, has the same fields, easier to process.
Right. And that structure, combined with relations, leads to easy navigation. Finding related info becomes much more intuitive when the connections are explicitly mapped out.
It feels more like exploring a connected brain than just digging through files.
Kind of, yeah. And it's built for scalability. Because it's modular new types, new cards, you can grow the system complexity over time without it becoming a total mess.
That's important as your knowledge base grows.
Definitely. And let's not forget collaboration, that same text editor. The activity tracking it all supports teamwork on cards, just like on documents.
Okay, so with all these differences laid out, the big question, when do you actually choose cards over documents? Or stick with documents?
The Cards versus Documents guide gives some pretty clear pointers here.
Yep.
It really comes down to your needs.
So if I need those custom attributes we talked about,
Use cards.
if I need to sort and filter based on specific criteria I define,
Use cards.
if I need to show clear, defined relationships between different pieces of information, like project relates to task, which relates to client.
Definitely use cards.
And this other point is interesting. The guide hints cards are the foundation for future stuff, like process management.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway. It suggests that if you plan to build workflows or processes around your content down the line, cards are designed for that. Huly seems to be positioning them as more than just storage, as components for building things.
So thinking ahead, cards might be the more future-proof option if you anticipate needing more automation or workflow integration.
That seems to be the implication.
Yeah.
But documents still have their place, right?
Absolutely. If your needs are simpler, if a nested folder structure works fine for you,
Or if you just need to quickly jot down some unstructured notes, like a quick draft or idea.
then documents are perfectly adequate. They do that job well. No need to overcomplicate things if you don't need the structure of cards.
Right. Use the right tool for the job.
And the use cases for CardSource really drives home how versatile cards can be. It lists quite a few examples.
Yeah, things like building a proper knowledge base with articles categorized by status and topic. That makes sense.
Or meeting notes, where you use attributes for attendees, action items, and link them directly to project cards using relations.
Feature specs for software development attributes for priority, status, related bugs. Research summaries with fields for methodology, key findings, linked source cards.
Even things like process documentation, mapping out steps and their connections, or complex marketing campaign plans, linking briefs to tasks to results.
It really shows the breadth, doesn't it? You can adapt cards to manage all sorts of structured information.
So if someone listening is thinking, okay, I'm sold, I want to try building with cards, where do they start? It sounds like it could get complex fast.
The guide offers some good advice there. The main thing is start simple.
Don't try to boil the ocean on day one.
Exactly. Pick one or two core types of information you struggle with now, define some simple types for them, and build out from there. You can always add more types, more attributes, more relations later.
And it mentioned you can change a card's type later, so you're not locked in forever if you make a mistake early on.
That's right. There's flexibility to evolve your system.
What else? Keep future processes in mind.
Yeah, even if you're not building workflows today, think about how you might want to use this information in a process later. Naming your attributes clearly, setting up logical relations, now it can save hassle down the road.
Good tip. And connect everything.
Use those reference attributes to link cards to people in your contacts or companies. Use @mentions in chat or issues to link back to relevant cards. Make it an interconnected ecosystem, not isolated silos.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big picture takeaway?
I think the core idea is that Huly Cards offer a significantly more structured, flexible, and interconnected way to manage information compared to documents, especially if you need custom details, advanced sorting, or meaningful relationships between data points.
And they seem poised to become even more powerful with future process management features, potentially letting you build custom mini apps within Huly.
Exactly. It's a shift towards a more database-like approach to knowledge, but hopefully still accessible.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Maybe take a second to reflect on the information you wrestle with daily. How could defining your own categories, your own connections, change how you find and use that information?
What new insights might pop up if your knowledge wasn't just in folders, but woven together in a more meaningful, structured way?
Maybe it's time to explore if building your own information system with Huly Cards could unlock something new for you.